On today's episode of You Asked, should you worry that a mini LED TV is going to be too bright? Should you wait until 2025 to buy your dream TV? And if so, why? What's up with Netflix calibrated mode and Amazon Prime Video calibrated mode? And just how limited is the digital optical audio output on TVs these days? Welcome back, everyone. I'm Caleb Dennison, and this is You Asked, the show where I answer questions you asked in hopes that I can help you and others with similar tech questions. If you've got a question for me, please email it to youasked@digitaltrends.com, and we'll see if your question gets picked to be answered on the show. Let's just dive right in today. Rick writes, I watch TV in a darker room with my plasma TV. Love it, just want it to be bigger. Should I be concerned that mini LED would be too bright for my room? I don't want to keep adjusting the brightness settings to keep from having to wear sunglasses to watch football games. I mean, my room is completely dark in the evening and only a couple small windows during the day. Hey Rick, the short answer is no. Just because a mini LED TV can get super bright doesn't mean that it has to. It's nice to have the headroom in some situations, but for SDR content, you can tame down the brightness to whatever level feels comfortable to you. And for HDR content, you can tame down the brightness for highlights if you find them to be a little too much. But I think most folks really enjoy the sparkle you get when tiny little elements are intensively bright. Anyway, I have two dedicated videos about this, one from this year and one from 2023. We'll link to both of them so you can hear me talk about this more if you like. Oh, also, a lot of TVs have both a day and a night mode, and all you have to do is switch between those if you really want to have distinctly different setups for day and night. Otherwise, you can find something in the middle and not have to worry about putting shades on. Wade writes, I currently have an 85-inch Sony Bravia X900H and have loved it from day one. But now I'm looking to upgrade to my dream TV, a flagship OLED. It would have been the Sony A95L, but due to being spoiled by 85 inches, I can't go down in size. So now I'm looking at the 83-inch LG G4 instead. I'm not looking to buy until soon after the new year, so do I go ahead and pull the trigger then or wait for blue OLED to come out? Is that close to commercial release, and will there be a huge difference between the two? I really don't want to have buyer's remorse. Right, Wade, so if you're not looking to get your dream TV until after the new year, then all you really need to do is wait for CES to happen. At CES, the Consumer Electronics Show held in Las Vegas each year, I'll be telling you all about what kind of advancements are coming in the 2025 TVs. If blue OLED makes it into a TV, we'll know, and I'll get to see it so I can tell you whether I think it's a big deal or not. But more importantly, I think there's a very strong possibility that there will be an 83-inch QD OLED option unveiled by Samsung. And if Samsung does it, that means that Sony won't be far behind. So, I know it can be hard to wait, but I think once we see all the new TVs coming out in 2025, you'll know what to do. That LG 83-inch G4 will still be available and the price will be coming down around then too. So maybe write in after CES and let's see where we're at that time. Celltech writes in saying, Sony Bravia televisions provide studio calibrated modes for Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, and Bravia Core apps. Do they really work? And there are so many PlayStation features included on Sony TVs. Can you explain that? Right, so what is up with these studio calibrated modes? I got a briefing on these when I visited Sony in Tokyo earlier this year, and I think I can best sum up studio calibrated modes this way. These picture modes, most of the time anyway, act a lot like the filmmaker mode on TVs, but it's controlled by the streaming companies that deliver the content. They're tough to test for me because they're triggered by the content on those streaming apps. At least, if there's a way to run test patterns on a TV that's been forced into one of these studio calibrated modes, I haven't figured it out, though to be honest, I've not spent a ton of time trying to figure it out. I think most of the time, these picture modes will target a D65 white point, so a slightly warmer overall color temperature, and that's what Hollywood prefers. They'll target a chosen color space, be that Rec 709, P3, or BT 2020, and most of the time, motion smoothing will be disabled. The purpose of these picture modes, ostensibly anyway, is to reproduce the content creator's intended look, whatever that may be. Are they redundant when something like filmmaker mode exists? I think for most of the content on these streaming platforms, the answer ends up being yes. But I can see that there might be times when the content calls for something other than a D65 white point, for example, or if a brighter average picture level is called for. But there are deeper reasons too, I think. One of which is that it's hard to get people to change the picture mode on their TV at all. Every single TV brand tells me that their data shows the vast majority of folks never change their picture settings. They just go with whatever the TV's doing right out of the box. And since these picture modes can be made to turn on automatically whenever streaming content from, say, Netflix, for example, that's a way to control what the user experience will be like. Now, I understand if some of y'all out there feel that's a bit controversial, that these picture modes should be something that you opt into, not be forced to opt out of, but here we are. The other reason I think they exist, honestly, it's yet another feature to slap on the box. If they can make you think you want it, then they can market it on the box as a benefit. Marketing always comes into play with this sort of thing. Now, as for your PlayStation question, I'm gonna be honest here, I'm not sure what kind of information you're after here exactly. I mean, Sony makes the PlayStation and Sony makes TVs. It's in a unique position to offer some special automated features on Sony TVs that take advantage of the PlayStation's abilities. Makes sense to me. Now, a lot like soundbars and TVs, you'll be able to get a baseline compatibility for some features like variable refresh rate and HDR performance, even if they're different brands. But for more advanced stuff, Sony's in a position to offer some premium features between two devices that it makes. Does that help at all? I really hope so. Anders writes in with an issue that I think a lot of home theater enthusiasts probably share. Anders has a great home theater system with AV separates and speakers and subwoofers, and while he has no problem powering it all on and enjoying it, his wife and kids just aren't up to dealing with the complication. So, Anders figures a soundbar system added into the room would be the best idea. But he's concerned about the limitations of the digital optical output on his TV and wanted to get suggestions on a soundbar that had good surround sound virtualization in case the signal isn't going to be up to snuff. So first off, Anders, I get it. I've suffered this issue myself. I was able to remedy this problem some by setting up the TV via HDMI CEC to power on my preamp processor, which was set up to use a low voltage trigger to also turn on the amp. This way, when the TV came on, so did everything else. And since it ran off the HDMI ARC port or eARC port, there was never a need to worry about getting the preamp or AV receiver tuned to the correct input, which is yet another button to have to press. However, even with this automation in place, sometimes the big system was just too much. So I get the appeal of using a soundbar system instead. Now, I must admit that I'm a little unsure about the digital optical audio output limitations that you're referring to in your email. It's true that digital optical can only pass lossy multi-channel audio formats, but like Dolby Digital Plus is still pretty good. And it's true that you can't get Dolby Atmos via optical, but most soundbars that offer Atmos support offer upsampling that will at least fake Atmos or fill out the sound a bit more. Maybe when you were writing to me, you were thinking of the lack of DTS support on some TVs via the optical connection. I'm not sure. Perhaps we can come back to this question if you have time to clarify for me. With all of that said, I think the Samsung Q990C or Q990D would be a great choice for an impressive soundbar surround system that can take whatever you toss at it via Toslink and make it sound great. Samsung also has some step-down options like the Q910 and the Q800 that could be worth taking a look at. But actually, now that I'm thinking about this, perhaps you're not interested in having another set of surround speakers in the room or maybe you wanna just skip having a subwoofer and surrounds. If that's the case, consider the Sonos Arc. It doesn't have an optical input, but it does come with an optical to HDMI adapter, so you can still use the optical output on your TV. And Sonos does a great job of making just about any signal you send it sound great on the Arc. Sonos is also making some great headway clearing up the app problem that sent them into a tailspin recently, so I feel comfortable recommending Sonos again. And for anyone wanting to get the best sound they can using the optical output, if the ARC or eARC port on their TV is busy feeding a bigger system, I think the thing to look for is signal upmixing so that it can take a non-Atmos signal and still make good use of all the speakers in the soundbar and, if applicable, surround speakers. The presence of upmixing or virtual Atmos should be mentioned in the product features or specs section. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. Our next episode will come hot on the heels of the Apple event, which I'll be attending in person this year. So if you have any questions related to Apple's product announcements, which will be made the day after this video premieres, send them to me as quick as you can. I'll be recording the next You Asked episode just a few hours after I get back home. Just remember, I'm most likely to get your question if you email them to youasked@digitaltrends.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. It's the best way to support this channel. I'll see you on the next one, and until then, here's 2 other videos I think you might like. What kind of idiotic face should I put on?